Hey coaches, just here with a more detailed explanation of my passing fan idea that I have for playing electric football. Get into some of the descriptions of the material and what I did, and show a play where you actually get to use it. So basically, the field that I'm using is on a 36 by 24 piece of metal, and the playing area itself is actually 31 inches by 21 inches, and that doesn't include the end zone measurement in there, just for length of playing yards. Now, a lot of the stuff that I use for the fan itself is actually in conjunction with a lot of different things from electric football community. I.e., the length of the passing fan itself is equivalent to the length of a medium pass stick. So the idea for the disc came from Fat 8 with his explanation of using the circles for zone coverage, and actually conveniently they work out to the same as for distance for a handoff to running back with the two bases, or as well the smaller one I use for pressures zone circle for the quarterback and for receivers. Materials that I use to make the fans themselves: clear file folders that I picked up from Staples or a local office supply store, just as long as it's a clear cover. And then the mounts for them are just two 14-inch cable ties, or zap straps, what you call them as well, put together with crazy glue. The disc, or the template for the disc, or the domes on the fans, are basically the disc that I talk about for the two of them. Quite briefly, I'll talk about the punt spikes, but it's not often that you have a bad snap from a punt. Basically, there's the five indicators there, and I just roll a 10-sided dice. 1 and 2 is the value of 1. 2 or 3 and 4 would be its value of 2, and just do a clock ray method. And then roll a 6-sided dice, odd numbers for 10 yards and even numbers for 15 yards behind, and again align the circle with the head of the quarterback, and the ball would go off in that direction by the appointed yards. Okay, so a brief intro into using the domes for handoffs and for pitch outs. The smaller one is what we use for handoffs. There's no dice roll required. It's an automatic handoff to the ball carrier if the head of the figure falls within that circle from the quarterback, and that's from the centered over the quarterback's head. Likewise, the larger one for pitch outs, the receiving ball carrier head must fall within the circumference of that as well to receive it, and there's a 2-die-6 roll for that, with a 2 or less results in a fumble. Okay, so in this situation where you have the intended ball carrier is forward of the quarterback, or the line that the quarterback's on, but still behind the line of scrimmage, they can receive, if they're within the circumference of the smaller circle, they can receive a direct handoff that's still allowed. However, if they're past that, but within the circumference of the outer one, they have to do a shovel pass. And with that, you roll 2-die-6, and a result of 3 or less results in an incomplete pass and not a fumble, as with the pitch play. Okay, for our league, we use as well the turn sequence from the EHFL, a rule set which include a snap, a read, and a scramble phase to the turn. The snap is a half-second bump followed by pivots, and once the defensive coach declares set, the offensive player can either call a play at that point or proceed to the next step, which is the read. And it's up to a 2-second bump run by the offensive team. Pivots are performed, and once the defensive coach declares set again, the offensive coach now has 5 seconds to declare a play or to proceed into the scramble. Now, the scramble can be up to a 2-second bump as well, But as soon as it's done, the coach has 5 seconds to declare a play. If a play is not called, the quarterback has to scramble, but we'll get into that in another set. So as you can see, you start with your basic setup, your receivers out and in position, and you do a half-second bump. Offense will do pivots first and place players onto stationaries or felts if they want to at that time, followed by defense doing their pivots and either placing players on or taking them off of felts at that time as well. Okay, so the offensive coach has chosen not to call a play at this point, and we move into the read, which is up to a 2-second bump by the offensive coach running the controller. And at the end of that point, that's when the offensive coach will do their respective pivots, followed by the defense doing theirs as well. Okay, so the read bump has been completed and the pivots as well. And you can see at this point with the facing of the quarterback that number 1 is outside the passing zone, and receivers 2 through 5 are actually within the passing zone. It might be noted as well, number 5 at this point is eligible for short pass because his figure falls underneath the edge of the fan. I should note here as well that no measurements are done on any of the receivers or ball carriers until the offensive coach has declared a play and indicated which receiver or ball carrier is to receive that ball. So with that said, I'm going to run through descriptions of pass plays to different receivers until we do the actual play that we're going to do in this case. So after the offensive coach has indicated which receiver or ball carrier is to receive the ball, we'll look at the pressure on the quarterback or modifiers to the quarterback first before moving on. Okay, so at this point the offensive coach has decided to attempt a pass. We first start by looking at the quarterback and any pressure they may be under, and in this case there's a +5 modifier for stress, as there's one defensive player within the pressure zone of the quarterback. You'll notice as well with the pressure zone there's a wedge in front of the quarterback. That is for when you have a pass for the path to the receiver and there happens to be a defender in that wedge, that angle, it's in an additional +5 to the +5 of the defender being in the zone already, so that one player can put an extra +10 modifier onto the roll. So with our first receiver, we're going to start off with it's outside the fan. There's that modifier, +5. It's a long pass. That's another +10, so we're up to 15. The defender is actually intersecting the line between the quarterback and the receiver, as well as within the pressure zone, and the bases are touching. So for each one of those, there's an additional +5. So we end up with a total of +30 before adding in the quarterback's +5, making it 35 modified to the roll. So a pass to be completed or successful in this situation would have to be a roll of 30 or less. Now, receiver number 2, again, we start off, he's within the passing zone, but he has some very big modifiers against him. It has the -10 to start with, being a long pass. He also has 3 defenders within the pass, or excuse me, the pressure zone area of him, as well as he has 1 defender that has base contact with him. There's also that player intersecting the line between the quarterbacks. That's an additional +5 on that. So you end up with the receiver's modifier of a +35, and added together with the quarterback's modifier at this time of a +5. That would mean that you have 40 total. So a pass would only be successful on a roll of 25% or less on the percentile dice. Not good odds. So again, number 3, we're looking at him. He starts off with a +10 for a long pass. He also has 2 defenders within his pressure zone, so that comes to a +10 for that. And then as well, one of those defenders is in contact, base contact with him. So that's a 25 modifier. Now added together with the quarterback in this situation, we give it a total of 30. In order for this pass to be successful, it would have to be a roll of 35 or less. With receiver number 4, again we start off with a long pass, plus 10. We also have 2 defenders within the pressure zone, so that's an additional plus 10, plus 5 for each one of the defenders. And there is 1 defender as well with base contact with the receiver, giving you a net of 25 for the receiver. Added with the quarterbacks, plus 5 would be a modifier of 30, and making it a result of a successful pass if the roll is 35% or less. Now we'll come to receiver number 5, who is looking like our best choice at this point. We'll start off, like we said before, he is eligible for short pass because he still has part of his base or figure within the short passing zone. So he gets a -5 modifier for that. He does get 2 plus 10 modifiers for 2 defenders being within his pressure zone, though, if you'll notice up towards the top. So added together, that comes us to a net of plus 5. So with the quarterbacks plus 5 as well, makes it a total of plus 10 to the dice roll. So that means a successful roll would have to be a 55 or less, which is really good odds and probably be our best play to call at this time. I should note here as well that no measurements are done on any of the receivers or ball carriers until the offensive coach has declared a play and indicated which receiver or ball carrier is to receive that ball. So the dice roll was successful. The pass is complete. The offensive coach does a juke move with a half-second bump of the board, at which point the defense takes over at that point. In this case, the receiver made it through the defenders, but eventually ran out of bounds at the visitors' 54-yard line. First down at that point, and line up and repeat. Okay, once again, this is just a few examples. This one I purposely made sure that a lot of the receivers were actually touching the defensive coverage so that modifiers would be there. A lot of times when we're playing, the receivers aren't touching, but they are definitely putting pressure in the zone by being on them. So that works out quite good. We find it really easy to use this system. It actually simulates a little more realism for us, as well as it takes away from having to manipulate the little ball or even ball markers and passing sticks on the field. Players actually stay where they are, and we just roll the dice for the resulting play. And if we do juke moves, we can pivot at that point, or otherwise we just leave the players and run the board for the success of the play. As a small sidebar, I'd mention as well that my field is actually a Canadian CFL field, so it's a 110-yard field as opposed to the 100-yard NFL field. So that makes a little variation and change for us, as well as playing with 3 downs as well. And we actually got news here this week, the end of April here, that the CFL will be active this year in 2021. Games starting in August of 2021, and Grey Cup will be played in December in Hamilton, Ontario. So it'll be a 14-game season, but very much looking forward to the season and seeing the results. Again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video. I enjoyed making it, and I very much enjoyed playing the game. I find it fast and easy to play, and not as frustrating from trying to make the passes as some of you great coaches out there can do. You make it look so easy, but this is one variation that we found to help us to get playing, and we do keep practicing as well to try and use the triple threat quarterbacks as well. But enjoy the game. That's the biggest thing about it, is enjoy the game and the good time and fellowship with your friends and new coaches as well, helping them and tutoring them along into developing into good coaches for electric football leagues. All right, guys, have a good time and happy playing.